Good morning. The Committee on Regulatory Reform will now come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Carter,
Present.
Representatives Liberati,
Here.
Neely,
Here.
Scott,
Present.
Young,
Here.
Brandt,
Here.
McFall,
Here.
Snyder,
Here.
Wilson, Mueller,
Here.
Filler,
Yes.
Wenzel, Aragona,
Here.
Beerline,
Here.
Nyer.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 14 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Neely moves to adopt the minutes from the June 13th, 2023. Seeing no objections, the minutes are adopted. Today, we'll be taking testimony on Senate Bills 247, 262, and 268, and House Bills 4600, 4601, and 4717. And we will also be voting out Senate Bill 247 today. So with that, I'd like to welcome Senator McCann to speak to his bill. Welcome, Senator, and have your guest introduce himself as well when you begin to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Marlon Lynch, Vice President and Chief Safety Officer, Michigan State University Police and Public Safety. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Chairman Carter and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify about Senate Bill 247. This bill would allow for not more than 5 tavern licenses, 5 Class C licenses, or any combination of, which are not location transferable, to be used for scheduled events within the public area of a facility on university property that is customarily used for intercollegiate athletics. That's a mouthful. These licenses would be able to be used for no more than 100 days per calendar year in aggregate for all licenses combined. The bill also allows for an additional 5 days per calendar year for events that are not athletic at the selected locations. A good example of this is when the U2 concert was hosted at Spartan Stadium in 2011. Under SB 247, the sale and service of alcohol, liquor would be limited to 1 hour before the event, ending no later than the conclusion of the event, with all consumption to be concluded 30 minutes after the event has ended. This language was developed following stakeholder meetings with many of our higher education partners, the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, as well as representatives from restaurants and other establishments. Currently, ongoing access to alcoholic beverages is exclusive to those viewing the game from VIP suites. My bill would expand the opportunity to all attendees to consume an alcoholic beverage while enjoying the event. Furthermore, this legislation puts Michigan institutions in line with the likes of Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, Minnesota, and Iowa. We also have reason to believe this approach could actually reduce potential binge drinking prior to a game, as patrons may be less inclined to load up before the game, knowing that they will have the option instead to obtain a beverage upon entering the facility and through the duration of the game. Many states who have implemented similar legislation have seen reports from universities indicating the number of alcohol-related incidents declined after the prohibition was lifted, and we'll hear more about that with a testimony from MSU Public Safety. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify, and I welcome any questions.
Good morning. Again, Marlon Lynch, Vice President and Chief Safety Officer for Police and Public Safety at Michigan State University. The NCAA allowed alcohol sales in athletic venues on campus beginning 2018-2019. Since then, within the Big Ten Conference, out of the 14 institutions, 11 currently allow alcohol sales within their venues. The 3 that do not are MSU, University of Michigan, and Nebraska. In peer benchmarking within the Big Ten, as recently as 3 weeks ago, at an annual conference, a question was posed to my peers within the Big Ten regarding alcohol-related incidents since they have allowed alcohol sales within their venues, athletic venues. There has not been an increase regarding alcohol-related incidents. Specifically for us at MSU, about 65% of our attendees at Spartan Stadium specifically are not MSU students with that. The sales being regulated within the stadium itself, not in the tailgating areas or anything like that, allows for all of the state regulatory issues with alcohol serving to occur within the stadium or within all the other athletic venues as well. With the peer institutions as well, there has not been an increase regarding additional police and public safety staff that has been needed since the alcohol sales. The additional staff goes with the serving and the concessions. Any challenges associated with the sales that have been particularly of note have been the concessions themselves, as far as the long lines and finding space within the venues to conduct the sales themselves. All of the alcohol training would be provided by the concessionaires as well as additional standard operating procedures with the athletic department and our auxiliary services.
Thank you, gentlemen. I just have a quick question myself, and we'll open it up for questions. Senator, when you spoke, you said sales up to 30 minutes after. I know at some venues they stop maybe around the third quarter. What is the rationale for that?
Thank you, Chairman. That was based on the stakeholder group conversations to reach that time frame, and that's really what was come to as part of those conversations.
Representative Mueller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. Looking through it, it says public universities. Is there any interest in, what about the private universities within the state, allowing them to also serve at sports functions if they had a Division I team or Division III team, NCAA? Why wouldn't we include some of the private colleges?
That really hasn't been any part of the conversation through the process of the bill. It's certainly something we could take a look at for a new possibility. Along those lines, there was conversation about doing more in terms of non-athletic events at the public venues, and we felt that that was a conversation that also kind of strayed from the intent of this direction.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony. Reading these cards in, wishing to speak, if needed, I don't think it's needed, to support the bill, Fred Scheibel, Western Michigan University. Wishing not to speak in support of the bill, Bonnie, State Relations, Oakland University. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Chad Wing, Eastern Michigan University. Supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, Scott Ellis, Michigan Licensed Beverage Association. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, David Marvin, Michigan Liquor Control Commission. Not wishing to speak but opposes the bill, Mike Tobias, Michigan Alcohol Policy Promoting Health and Safety. I need a motion to report Senate Bill 247 with recommendation. Rep. Filler makes the motion. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll? Take the vote.
Chair Carter?
Yes.
Representatives Liberati?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Brandt?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Snyder?
Yes.
Wilson? Mueller?
Yes.
Filler?
Yes.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Beerline?
Yes.
Nyer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 14 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. Senate Bill 247 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we'll have testimony from Senator Irwin on Senate Bill 262. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, for taking a few moments to discuss this bill, despite that it is intense. I'm here to discuss a bill that is right here at the intersection of lowering regulation and protecting human health and improving our environment. Not a lot of opportunities like this, but when I saw it in the last session, I thought maybe this is something I can get done, although narrow. And so I proposed this bill, and we were able to get it part of the way through the process last year, and now here it comes again. Hopefully we can get it over the line. And here's what it's about. Many, many years ago, our state developed fire prevention codes and developed rules for camping tents. These aren't the big, large venue tents that we see out on the lawn of the Capitol. These are small recreational camping tents that you might enjoy Pure Michigan in. And when we developed those regulations, the tents were usually made out of canvas and cloth and things like that, so they developed fire prevention codes for those. Nowadays, camping tents are made out of much higher tech materials, nylons and things like that, and the studies have shown that these flame retardant chemicals don't actually provide any benefit in terms of fire prevention. But what they do is they do add more toxic chemicals to our environment. They do off-gas a little bit when those tents are new. And studies have shown that when humans inhabit these tents, they get a little bit of those cancer-causing chemicals. And so given the fact that these flame retardants aren't providing any additional fire protection benefit to our residents, and given the fact that we've got retailers in our state who've come forward and said, this is odd that I can't sell these tents in Michigan, but I can sell them in other states. Why is that the case? Well, this is why. Let's get this outdated regulation out of the way and do it in a way that actually redounds to the benefit of our environment and our health. Thank you for the opportunity to present the bill.
Representative Argona.
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for being here. And you mentioned removing regulation, so on the side of the aisle, man, music to our ears, we're good, you know. But I did want to ask you about the language of the bill. Part of what this bill is striking on page 2, it says, or another nationally recognized standard that is acceptable to the director. And in that language that you're striking, it's talking about the regulation going back to 75, and then you have new language regarding the NFPA 701, which is this new standard. My question is, if it says another nationally recognized standard that is acceptable to the director, I mean, due respect, do we need the bill, or can we just talk with the director and say, hey, this is a better standard, why don't we use this?
And that's essentially what we're doing here, is we're eliminating a requirement that they peg this to an outdated standard, and we're empowering the director to use this standard now or a new one, should a new one come along in the future. So I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, what we're doing is we're setting this up for the future by repealing this very specific stipulation to, to make it such that future legislators don't have to come back and tweak this again if the standard that's right today isn't the standard that's right 5 years or 10 years down the line.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, in this bill, or in current law, it says, or another nationally recognized standard, which you're now implementing. And then the language further goes on to say, if the Bureau wants to promulgate any other future rules, or if there's new standards that come up in the future, they can decide on those. But in current law, it says that there is this old standard going back to the 70s. However, if the director sees a different nationally recognized standard that is proper, they can go ahead and use that. So my question is, without the bill, why can't the director just start using NFPA 701 right now?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you.
Appreciate that honesty. Any more questions? Thank you, Senator, for your testimony.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Wishing not to speak in support of the bill, Mac Jones from Laura. Next, we have testimony from Senator Hertel on Senate Bill 268.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, it's always good to be back in the House. It feels like I haven't been gone too long, but this is my first time back over here since leaving. Thank you again for taking up this bill, Senate Bill 268. This legislation, simply put, would untie a requirement that's in Michigan law for pre-need insurance to rise annually with the Detroit Consumer Price Index. Michigan is the only state that has such a tie, and this bill would bring us in line with all the other states that sell pre-need insurance as an option. With 40% of the Michigan Funeral Director Association funeral homes reporting pre-need insurance is the primary way that people pay for these services, there is a clear need to ensure that we have a state policy that allows these products to continue in a financially solvent manner. And what we're seeing today across the state is there's only a couple insurers that will actually provide this product in the state anymore. And if not fixed, I believe that there will be no insurers that will be willing to provide this product, which means that families across our state will not be able to pay for this benefit, and then their loved ones will get stuck with the cost of a funeral after they pass on. And so I know we have members of the Pre-Need Coalition here today who will speak to the importance of this legislation, and they're truly the experts, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have for me, but they might be able to answer them better as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Oh, they're going to come together. Okay. Wishing to speak, Jared Rozicki and John Otara. Introduce yourselves, gentlemen. Proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is John O'Hara, and I am a funeral director, a small business owner, and advanced funeral planner. And as the senator had iterated, I am also the founder of the Michigan Pre-Need Coalition, and with me today is Jared Rozicki from the Michigan Funeral Directors Association. We are here today to talk about pre-need insurance in the state of Michigan. And with over 250 funeral homes on the coalition side signing on to this legislation and support, many of you have a relationship with your funeral directors and funeral home owners in your communities, right? And this list continues to grow with the association support and, of course, our hard work over the last year. Again, many of you have relationship. Chair Carter, I believe these funeral homes have reached out to you, James H. Cole, Rep. Wenzel, Tom Starks, Rep. Liberati, John Martinson in the Kernan Funeral Homes, Rep. Wilson, Stark Funeral Services in Ypsilanti, and Rep. Snyder, Seitzma Funeral Home and Clock Funeral Home. And these are all just household names for you in your communities that are serving families that are using these products to lawfully and legally pre-fund funerals in the state of Michigan. So as many of you know, with Senator Hertel's testimony, this Senate bill breezed through the Senate last week with a 38-0 vote and 10-0 out of committee. And we started in the spring of '22 with this and had success all the way to the governor's desk last year, but because of being discharged from committee, we just ran out of time. But was quickly reintroduced this year by Senator Hertel. So pre-need insurance, again, we are required by law to pre-fund funerals for your constituents into specialized approved financial products here in the state of Michigan. And pre-need insurance, as the senator testified, is 40% of what funeral homes use to pre-fund these contracts lawfully. It's an important note, as the senator mentioned, we are the only state left with this regulation. Virginia repealing their code last year in the spring of 2022, to save an industry and to protect Virginians. And we have the same opportunity to do that here today. We are on the verge in 2023 of losing pre-need insurance. We have been, and Ms. Whitaker from Homesteaders Life will testify as well. They left, a large pre-need insurance carrier left in January of '22. We are down to 2 carriers that are accepting new business in the state of Michigan, where our neighbors of Ohio and Indiana and the like have 20 pre-need carriers available to constituents, funeral homes, and funeral professionals. Lastly, just like my father, who was on a fixed income, like many of our constituents are, paid for his funeral plan over time and was covered by insurance. When he died in March of '22, my family was protected by insurance. And we couldn't have been, and I could not be more grateful for my dad setting up that pre-need. And my mom, very different scenario, able to pay, made a single payment. So, and lastly, well, probably important to everybody in your district's jobs, right? So funeral homes have dedicated advanced funeral planners. Without pre-need insurance, these jobs would go away. And then, of course, when families need funeral homes and their help, these staff members will no longer be in Michigan because of the erosion of this industry and our profession. The cost of doing business has really, really gotten out of control for these insurance carriers, as Ms. Whitaker will articulate. This has limited access to the constituents. It's drastically increased costs to your constituents. Many folks who have to walk that journey for Medicaid will not have this product available to them to pre-fund to qualify for nursing care at long-term care facilities. So there is a lot at stake here, and this is and could not be more time sensitive, as we've been working on this for over a year. And through the support of the Senate, it's clear that there are no objections, and we know of no funeral homes in the state of Michigan, or constituents for that matter, that are against this piece of legislation. So I do ask today, with knowing the support on both sides of the aisle and the support we had last year, that you consider taking a vote today so we do not lose pre-need insurance in the state of Michigan, which is at great risk as we sit here today. We thank you for your time and your attention to this very important issue. And Jared, anything to add?
Thanks, John. Just to piggyback, from a consumer protection side of this, our members guarantee prices ahead of time. So even without the stipulation that the death benefits rise by the CPI index, will not have any impact on the consumer.
We're available for questions.
All right. Any questions? I have a quick one. What's the average cost now of a funeral?
For a traditional service with visitation and burial, about $8,000 to $9,000.
So you're not affiliated with those guys on TV, right?
No.
Okay. Rep. Aragon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks, guys, for being here. So if you can help me understand, I know when I sold insurance, there was different products that we would use. It sounds like that's not the same type of product. This is directly through funeral homes, correct? Or maybe even through cemeteries if you're going in to pre-plan for those events. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so how our members sell this product is through a limited insurance license. And the reason why it's limited is the department wanted to make sure when they were implementing this that they were there to only sell funerals, to not, have a greater life insurance policy.
Sure. Okay. So can you help me understand how this will help some of our constituents? Because it sounds like the end goal that you're trying to accomplish is to lower the price. My initial thought, though, is if you are decoupling these policies from the CPI, wouldn't your carrier simply raise the initial price?
The short answer is no, because right now the cost of doing business in Michigan is significantly higher than other states. So for instance, they have to hedge their investment a lot differently in Michigan because of the unknowns of the CPI, where traditional insurance policies that are, whether it's prearranged insurance or it's, your traditional life insurance policies, are tied to an interest rate. So the unknowns for the insurance company have increased premiums, for people like my dad who paid overtime on their policies. So comparatively to in Ohio, because of the unknowns and because of the additional hedges that the insurance companies have to make to ensure, quite honestly, that they even break even, which they're not now, and that's why they're exiting, leaving, and not coming back, and we're down to 2. The cost has gotten and the unknowns have gotten so remarkable that that's where the pricing is coming in, versus if there is a known scope, like the 49 other states, it allows them to be a bit more nimble and offer more products to funeral homes to be more specific for their needs. Where right now, even specifically funeral home to funeral home, there's only one product available from an insurance company, where that same insurance company may offer 4 to 5 different products to a particular funeral home based on the community's needs and their needs.
Okay, so under current law, they are tied to the CPI, correct?
Correct.
Okay, no lower, no higher. You have to adjust just on that.
There is a floor of 1% that does not allow the insurance carrier to credit below 1%.
Okay.
Based on the CPI.
And then once we pass this bill, now it's decoupled. So potentially they could raise rates, and the market could potentially go above the CPI. So it actually could raise the rates on people looking to purchase a product like this, correct? So potentially this could actually make it cost more. I mean, I understand your argument that many are exiting the market in Michigan, but I mean, potentially this could have a drastic increase effect.
Due to the fact that our members guarantee prices ahead of time, it could be a scenario where someone purchases their funeral 20 years in advance, and our members have to honor that price 20 years later. So even if the death benefit of the limited life insurance policy didn't increase at the rate of inflation, it still would not have any impact on the consumer. The funeral home has to, by law, carry out that funeral service.
Okay. And one last question, if you don't mind. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when you say that, you have to honor the price that you purchase now for 20 years in the future. If I walked in and purchased this product, it would be if I had a loved one pass, that's the price. If I came in and said, well, I want to plan for the future, it's the exact same price, correct?
That is correct. Whatever you lock in the prices at the time you enter the contract.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. And one thing you said, there's only 2 carriers right now in the state of Michigan, so maybe this will open the market to create that competitiveness, if you will, that they have in other states.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the idea here being that we're grateful for the insurance carriers that have stayed.
Correct.
However, it does create a one-sided market, and that, again, constituents, funeral homes, advanced funeral planners, all feeling the effects of this now.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions. Wishing not to speak but in support of the bill, Marcia Hune, Life Insurance Association of Michigan. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Christy Siloff, National Alliance of Life Companies. Wishing not to speak but in support of the bill, Rob Anderson, Michigan Farm Bureau. Not wishing to speak but neutral, Joseph Sullivan, DIFS. Next, we'll have testimony from Representative McFall on House Bills 4600 and 4601. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Chair. The Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, the MMFLA, currently restricts transfers of medical marijuana products between certain medical marijuana license types. It allows processors to receive product only from a grower and transfer or sell only to a provisioning center or another processor. And it allows provisioning centers to receive product only from a grower or processor and transfer or sell only to a patient or caregiver. Under this medical marijuana bill, House Bill 4601, processors could also receive product from a provisioning center or another processor and transfer sell to a grower, and provisioning centers could receive product from another provisioning center and transfer or sell to a grower, processor, or another provisioning center. The changes in this bill would more closely align with what is allowed of adult use licenses under the Michigan Regulatory and Taxation of Marijuana Act, the MRTMA. Importantly, there are current limitations on transfers types in the MMFLA limit licenses options if they have excess medical marijuana product that they cannot sell. The bill would allow a licensee more options to transfer or sell products to another licensee who needs product or who has the means to sell the product while ensuring the products remain within the regulated supply chain. Both bills add language that would remove the requirement that a spouse of an applicant must also pass a background check. My bills will only require a spouse to pass a background check if they are also going to be involved in the business and its operations. We have been working closely with the Cannabis Regulatory Agency, the CRA, on these bills. These bills will cut out some of the administrative hassle under the current law and ensure licensure can be more efficiently and effectively processed by the CRA. These bills passed last session, but they were lame duck vetoed by the governor. So in support of the bill is the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, along with various marijuana businesses like PharmaCann and SkyMint. And I do have someone here from the CRA if we have any technical questions. Nothing?
No questions? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not wishing to speak neutral is Derek Sova. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Ron Corey from Gresco Labs, and Derek Sova is from CRA. Oh, there you go. Couple more. Okay, sorry. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Kevin McKinney, Michigan Cannabis Industry Association. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Manny Lentine, Common Citizen. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Shelley Edgerton, Farm Can Live Well. Next, we'll have testimony from Representative Grant on House Bill 4717.
Thank you, Chair Carter, for the opportunity to speak on House Bill 4717, which would amend the occupational code to revise continuing education standards for realtors, ensuring they are trained on compliance with local, state, and federal fair housing law. Currently, realtors and brokers are required to undergo initial training in fair housing compliance to receive their license. This, of course, is a good start, but my bill would ensure that this training is required on an ongoing basis. By amending continuing education requirements, my bill would mandate that realtors and salespeople regulated by this act undergo 1 hour of training in fair housing law each year. This would not add any additional time to their continuing education requirements, but simply pull from the 18 hours that are currently required during a 3-year license cycle. As representatives of our great state, it is within our power to protect and promote fair housing practices for all of our citizens. By mandating this ongoing education for real estate professionals, we can ensure that they possess the knowledge and understanding necessary to support fairness, equity, and non-discrimination in housing. Housing is not merely a basic human need, it is a fundamental right. It shapes our lives, influences our opportunities, and defines the makeup of our communities. As housing law continues to evolve, it is critical that professionals in the space are up to date on the industry. Education is key and will enable them to serve as advocates. This critical role in the housing process is not something that a realtor can do unless they have ongoing training that is maintained over time. In conclusion, passing a law that requires realtors to undertake educational credits on fair housing law is a crucial step towards achieving housing equity and addressing discriminatory practices. By investing in the education of real estate professionals, we invest in the well-being and future of our communities. The last thing someone struggling to secure a home needs is an agent who does not know how to support their rights or protect against discrimination. I'm a proud partner with the Michigan Realtors who also understand this and are eager to see this change signed into law. Together, we can ensure that every person, regardless of their race, religion, gender, or ability, can enjoy the rights and opportunities that come with having a place to call home. I welcome any questions from the committee, and I thank you once again for considering this legislation.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative. Just quickly, if you could, what are the penalties for not getting this continuing education?
So essentially, every 3 years, a realtor or anyone under this statute would need their license renewed. And so the penalty wouldn't be tied directly to not having this credit, but overall, if you are not fulfilling the needs overall for your license to be renewed, then it would not be until the requirements are fulfilled. So in that 3-year cycle, they need 3 credits of fair housing law along with other requirements to renew their license.
Representative Scott.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Do you foresee that this could be a financial burden on the licensee in any way?
We don't foresee that because it doesn't change the number of hours that they would have already needed. So it doesn't increase the hours. It was always 18, but it's just saying within those 18, 1 hour a year needs to be fair housing law.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Representative. Wishing to speak in support of the bill, time needed 2 minutes. Brad Ward. Just reading a card.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Brad Ward, Vice President of Public Policy and Legal Affairs for the Michigan Realtors. I don't know that I need the full 2 minutes after the wonderful testimony by Representative Grant. We appreciate her introducing this bill. Our association is in full support of it. It's not just about having enough housing in the state, but also having fair access to it. And we appreciate the questions. There are penalties that are also levied by the department, Representative Young, if I may. If you fail to meet your continuing education requirements, one, you don't get to renew your license, but there are also financial penalties that can be levied upon you, and then they make you make up those hours plus some with the department. So, when they audit those continuing education credits, it's very important. That is something that we take very seriously as an industry. So,
any further questions? Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
Seeing no absent members and there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.